1. 5.
All right. Hey guys, welcome to episode 10 of Climbing the Ladder. I'm your host ChanmanV. Sorry, we're running a little bit late today. I got in a little bit late and setting all this up. Took a little bit of time, but John's hosting the show again today. Thanks, John, for doing that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Co-hosting with me, as always, is John Clark from CSN and Ben Nickel, aka Mr. Bitter, caster extraordinaire for NASL. How you guys doing?
I'm doing well. I think Ben might.
Life is good.
He's there.
No,
all right, sweet.
I'm halfway here. I'm just
Okay.
setting up some other things for a cast I'll be doing in about an hour, but I'm halfway here.
Cool. Yeah,
Excellent.
Ben's gonna have to check out on us. He has to go do some TSL casting. Darn.
Ooh.
Must be nice. But what we're gonna do today, guys, it's gonna be a little bit different than what we typically do on Climbing the Ladder. We're gonna really do a case analysis of the GESL event, the SoCal event this past weekend. I felt like it was, be really great to do this because I know a lot of people are, really enjoyed the Rosen Brothers one that we did with the Lone Star Classic, the Lone Star Clash, like a few episodes ago, and having this be such a fresh event, and having the pleasure of having Bobby, Omari, and Trevor Jones on here who did a lot of the organizing. Actually, Bobby is the founder and event director of the whole event. Having them on here, and John obviously helping out with the event, and Ben actually attending the event, I think it'd be awesome to really dig in each component of the event, really talk about the organizing of it, and then just talk about any issues or anything to really celebrate, about each part of it this past weekend. So I feel like a lot of people can get a ton from it if we really go into detail with each. How's that sound to you guys? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Yeah. I'd like to clear up some misconceptions.
Awesome. Sorry, what was that, Trevor?
I'd love to clear up some misconceptions.
Oh. Well, yeah, we typically start out with misconceptions, but how about we do this? Like, any misconceptions that each component of the event we'll go over or just bring up. Anybody can just bring up at any time.
Okay.
So, all right, so to start it off, again, I wanted to introduce Bobby and Trevor. So Bobby Omari, he's the event director for the GESL, and he was the originator, founder, or however you want to call it, of the event, right, Bobby?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so, if you want me to elaborate more,
Sure.
I've basically been doing events for a long time, esports events, did them at Odyssey, started out in high school, and kind of grew from every little experience, and I really wanted to just put together, a bigger esports event and take what I do to the next level, and I think this was a great foundation for that. And that's pretty much it. I've been working on this event probably since the beginning of last year. I've always thought about doing it for the past 3 years, but it's always a matter of funding, trying to get all the funding in place so you can actually do it.
Mm-hmm. So, that's a long time to be planning an event. Do you think, did that have a lot to do with you just kind of doing it on the side, doing it part-time, or was it really just like you doing it full-time for over a year?
It was just me at the beginning doing it part-time, and as the time rolled in, I was working on it pretty much full-time. But I go to school and I go to work full-time, and so it's tough doing that. But I ended up doing that, and pretty much worked out okay. I wish I just had more time to work on it. Mm-hmm. After working full-time and going to school is really difficult, obviously, and working on an event full-time is even harder. So, that was kind of that.
Yeah, it's amazing you were able to do that given the size of the event. So that's really, really awesome. Next, I wanted to introduce Trevor. Trevor Jones. He is, I guess, what's your official title for the event? The site coordinator, site manager,
Event lead. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just sort of float to wherever I'm needed, but I guess event lead would be the main thing.
Anyway, why don't you talk about I guess some of the responsibilities you had, I guess, during the event?
Well, the main thing that I was brought in for was I was the Cal Poly Pomona StarCraft club leader on our campus, and also we had about 30 staff members there, so I just wanted to make sure they were where they need to be during the event. So I guess I was sort of staff lead for the Cal Poly side, and then I was also school liaison, because the school is 30 minutes from Bobby's place, and I'm there almost every day, so I talked to them, worked with them, and then actually during the event, I was just making sure that any problems that arose were taken care of, and if anyone needed anything, that I could help out with that. So.
Okay, awesome.
And I just want to add real quick, Chris. Trevor did a great job with facilities, trying to deal with, the Bronco Student Center. So that was really key.
Okay, so landing, I guess the venue, I guess. So how did you choose Cal Poly, actually, Bobby? I mean, did you get a hold of Trevor first, or was it?
Well, one of my buddies, he goes to Cal Poly Pomona, and he was into esports and StarCraft, and at the time I was trying to find a venue. If those of you that don't know, Southern California is extremely expensive to get a venue, especially at the budget we were trying to work with. And we thought, a college campus would be great, kind of taking from what Lone Star Clash did. It's a good area, good demographic, and I was kind of going around. I actually checked Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine, UC Riverside, UCLA. I checked several campuses, and basically the venue of choice was Cal Poly Pomona, just because they had really good internet was the main thing. Also, they had the venue space, the space we needed to do the event.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through my friend and I said, "Hey, can you get me in contact with whoever does your StarCraft 2 club?" And he basically got me in contact with Trevor. I kind of went from there.
Okay, awesome. Actually, why don't we just kind of finish off, kind of getting a sense of what everybody, what everybody's role was. John, I know you worked the event too.
Yep.
What are some of the things you did?
Well, actually, to begin with, Bobby basically just contacted me just for some insight. At first it was, some questions that maybe he wasn't familiar with, or just some advice, or just to look over kind of what they were planning and get my opinion on it. And then it kind of grew from there, and we offered, Rachel as an MC to kind of add some media to it. We also offered to do some interviews and whatnot, and along the way, I guess I just kind of got into a position in which I was kind of helping with the format, the scheduling. Basically, I was just part of the crew at that point, just with the staff, and it was a group effort. But once we got there, my job was basically to manage the schedule, and that was hell. but not to, it was just, you're dealing with sponsors that have very specific things that they want addressed, and then you're dealing with issues that pop up that are out of our control, and some of them which they were in our control, and so it was always changing the schedule. So it was just making sure that the schedule was on key, that some things were getting worked on. I helped anywhere and everywhere that I could. Very much like Trevor, we were kind of just roaming around, basically, getting involved where we could and helping where we could, and that's pretty much what I did.
Okay, great. Ben, you actually attended the event.
I did.
Correct?
Yes.
So what were your thoughts? How'd you like it?
From a live event point of view, it wasn't bad. It was a good venue. There was a pretty reasonable live audience. If the players were well looked after, which is always the most important thing in my opinion. And I mean, the setup was fine. They had a good production team back there. All of that was good. From a live event side, I think logistically everything was pretty well taken care of.
Very cool. So first thing I want to start off by, I guess, discussing, with you, Bobby, is the decision to have both StarCraft 2 and League of Legends.
Yeah.
To kind of talk about that a little bit. Why both of them, or why not just one or the other?
Originally, actually, wasn't going to be League of Legends. It was I for sure had my mind set on StarCraft 2. I like StarCraft 2. I don't play it, but I just like the having the audience and the casters. I just like the atmosphere. The other game, for those of you that don't know, I come from a Counter-Strike background, so for me, Counter-Strike was really important to have, and CS:GO was about to come out, or it's not out yet, but we're basically going to try to have CS:GO as like the first CS:GO tournament. And I was talking to Valve, but the time it took from trying to get an okay from Valve that we could get a CS:GO server and whatnot and try to get some support, it just took way too long. And I had to quickly change the game, go to my plan B, which was League of Legends. And as we all know, League of Legends has a very high viewer count and a big fan base. So, as far as having two games, I just felt like I needed to get more of an audience at the event, and to do that was to have multiple games. And I think it was a good choice because of DreamHack, I think a lot of people didn't view our StarCraft side, and at the same time, we had some really good names, but we didn't have big enough names as well as casters. So I think the offset to having League of Legends really helped out.
I see. So, do you think having League? I mean, do you think having League completely saved the tournament, or
I think it helped with the on-site viewer count.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would have quote-unquote saved the event, but it definitely helped us.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you define what a successful event is. If you're only looking at stream numbers, sure, it definitely helped. But if you're looking at on-site, on-site it definitely helped too. But that doesn't necessarily. I mean, you could have taken League of Legends out of the equation, concentrated only on StarCraft, which of course would have lowered the amount of components that were involved in the event.
Right.
Maybe some things would have ran smoother. Obviously, without League of Legends there, we wouldn't have had the problem with the patch, which of course caused a huge problem. So I'm not sure that League of Legends necessarily saved anything. It was just another component, and it was dealt with. I think an all StarCraft 2 event would have been successful in a different way, because on the StarCraft 2 side, it ran pretty much flawlessly.
Right.
But like you said, I mean, one of the things that you pointed out with just with right there is that it sounded like the majority of the people that actually that attended the event were there for League, right? So
yeah, I think it was a good portion leaning to League. So if you look at the on-site viewer count, I think it was beneficial to having League, and even online. Mm-hmm. But I think, like what John said, is if we have focused on StarCraft 2, let's say instead of putting that money to League, we went even more to StarCraft 2, we could have gotten maybe better players and better casters, or not better casters, but just more popular casters, which could have helped the event a lot.
Right, with the larger prize pool. That's true.
Right. So that again, there was that balance with League of Legends. So.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about the scheduling of it, and because I know a lot of viewers don't understand why you would schedule an event at the same week as DreamHack.
Sure.
So, why don't you explain that a little bit?
That's a good question. So basically, when we picked the date, we did choose it before DreamHack released their summer, DreamHack summer event. DreamHack was not in mind at the time. Additionally, we chose the date because we wanted right after MLG Anaheim to make it easy for players to say, hey, just stay the week longer and attend our event, and that dramatically helped us a lot. One of the other reasons, too, is because Gigabyte, they're a computer hardware company, their focus is heavily in Computex in Taiwan, so we couldn't do it, the week before MLG or earlier. So those are basically all the key factors as to why we chose that particular date.
Just to add to that real fast, school is also big timing. I know at least about 50% of the staff was from school, so we wanted to avoid finals week and midterms and all that, so everyone had not only a chance to attend, but also a chance to work.
Correct.
I see. So were you worried, I guess, going into this about DreamHack? I mean, how much of the overlap was it during the day, actually?
It wasn't much of an overlap.
Okay.
But I think that we didn't get very much traction within StarCraft community because DreamHack just had such a big push, and they basically outshined us, which is fine, and it is what it is. But I think that's basically what happened.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of overlap. You guys started pretty early with your games. So I mean, by the time you were finishing up your evening, DreamHack was done. But all those midday games that you use to sort of bolster stream numbers as you move up towards your finale, those were pretty much overlooked because of DreamHack. The other thing that was a major killer for you guys was your stream downtime. Your streams were always going up and down and up and down and up and down. You can't be shutting off streams in the middle of a broadcast.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that goes back to what we had as far as setup with production. Keep in mind that mostly our entire team was just volunteers, and we didn't have as big of a budget as I wish we had for production, just to keep our everything up and running the whole time. So it kind of is what it is.
There was a couple times too that we were actually trying to improve the quality of the stream, and in order to do so, obviously we had to bring it down. I know that there were several people on the horn with Gunrun from Twitch, and the idea was to try to improve the quality of the stream that was coming through, and in order to do so, we had to pull it down, which did suck. But in terms of actual downtime, that's pretty much on us.
Yeah.
We had 3 stream producers, all students. Is that true, Bobby? All of them were volunteers, the stream producers?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think that communication-wise, we didn't communicate well enough with them, and I'm not quite sure what their experience was, but they may have been a little bit inexperienced in like a large production like this. So we missed a lot of opportunity to fill that downtime.
Right, and I think, John, you mentioned in a ESFI, video interview that you did, that you kind of get what you pay for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we were very minimal on our production set, so I think that's pretty much kind of to explain.
Right, and it's not that it couldn't have been better with what we had. It's just a lot of these people were volunteering their time, and they were. Some of them were very new to this sort of live production.
Right.
But they worked their tails off. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
We just didn't. I don't think we had the resources that we needed in place.
Okay. It wasn't an internet issue, though, was it? It was mostly just set up?
Yeah, the internet was great. I mean, up and down speeds were fantastic. Especially Cal Poly Pomona, it's an engineering school. They are very focused on technology and having faster internet and whatnot. So I don't think it was the internet. I think it was just pretty much how our production was set up. And like John said, there were people that were inexperienced, but at the same time they were volunteers. So.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, looking back at it, what would you do differently there? Would you have spent like maybe an extra hour or two, maybe training some of these folks, or? I guess that's really the question. Like, what you would do differently?
What I would do differently, as far as production goes, is the school only gave us Thursday to set up from 8 in the morning to 10 p.m. I wish we had Wednesday to set up.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Right. So
one more day would have made a difference.
Just one more day would have made a ton of difference. We would have been able to test the stream more. Train these volunteers on what to do, and I think that kind of wasn't to our advantage that we only had one day to set up.
Okay.
Besides that, I probably would have gotten more equipment, better equipment, and all that. But again, there was just a lack of budget that we couldn't put that much money into it.
Yeah, I mean you can't really help that, right? I mean that's something. Whatever you can afford, that's what you got to go with, right?
Yeah, I mean, Bobby, you can let him know. I mean, in the beginning, we had a crew that we had very much in mind to bring in, and we just couldn't afford it. That was really what it was.
Right.
And that crew would have probably done a fantastic job, as they're doing right now, with what they do daily.
Absolutely.
Is it that you couldn't afford it with your budget, or is it because you couldn't afford it because of the way your budget was allocated?
It was just because of our budget in general. there were a lot of things that I wish we had more budget to put into, but it was just a lack of. So.
So it's kind of a good lead into the next segment, which is funding, and budget related, obviously. Bobby, talk to us a little bit. One of the things that was really great about the event, and leading obviously all the months leading up to it, was really seeing your sponsor list just kind of grow and grow to a lot of these companies that we don't typically see involved in tournaments, and just esports events. And that was really, really cool. So talk to us a little bit about how you got that many sponsors, that many different sponsors to really contribute to this event. And given that you had so many, talk to us about really the budget. I mean, I figured you would have a lot of budget given just the number of sponsors. And
No,
go ahead.
it's one of those things where this is a first time event for Gigabyte, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot of these companies. This is the first time that they were able to wanted to get into this, because Gigabyte works very closely to a lot of these companies, obviously like Newegg and Kingston and whoever. So as far as gathering all the sponsors, that was pretty much a combined effort of myself and Gigabyte, but then also John brought in Aber Media, which helped a ton with for production equipment and whatnot, as far as using capture cards. But again, it was basically just a combined effort of myself and Gigabyte. I wrote up all the proposals and created all the designs, and basically sent that out to many of the sponsors, and Gigabyte sent the same proposal out to other sponsors as well. And really, the contribution we got from our sponsors was either basically they were paying for a booth, or they provided product, or they were a headline sponsor. And our headline sponsors were, of course, Gigabyte, Kingston HyperX, and Cooler Master, while the other ones either paid for a booth and for advertising and whatnot as well, or they just provided product. And given that this was a first event, you can't really charge a whole lot, for a company to get a booth. And
what were you guys charging?
I don't mind mentioning it, but we were basically going around. It was anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500. So, and that was for a booth for the whole weekend, and that they also, of course, got advertising and their logos on a lot of printed media and whatnot. But it wasn't all of them. So some of them were also just product, or just were there to be at the event just to give away some stuff to fans and whatnot.
I definitely saw some commercials in between some of the games. So which sponsors were those sponsors? Were those just the headline sponsors, or
those were sponsors that either got a booth, or they were a headline sponsor. That was pretty much it. Those were just those. And obviously, CSN, of course, had a commercial. That CSN did help us a ton, and we super appreciate it. So it was the least we can do, right, John?
Right, the least.
So yeah. So I mean, that was kind of that. So yeah. As far as what else, I mean, just to give people, I have no problems telling people what our budget was. It was originally, when it first started the event, people don't know this, but my budget was $10,000.
Oh my gosh.
that was the original, and then after a while we were like, holy crap, we can't do this with that kind of budget. And then basically the ultimate budget was $40,000.
Okay.
So when people are kind of comparing us to like an MLG or an IPL or whatever, it's really comparing apples to oranges, because we worked with such a low budget to try to put on a high production event, and I think that was kind of the misconception there.
And when you talk about budget, we're not talking about just strictly money that you get from sponsors, right? We're talking actually about even potential earnings, right, to cover this budget, right? And I mean, I want viewers to kind of understand that when you have this event, right, that $40,000 isn't paid for yet. A lot of it will come from like ticketing and maybe merchandising and ad revenue, right, from the streams.
Right, and basically, When I say 40K budget, that includes all the pricing for the players, that includes production, that includes food for staff, and whatever it is. And obviously, we bought a lot of things while we were there on the weekend to get things running and whatnot. So that 40K was to pretty much cover it all. And then if we spent more than that, we were hoping that our stream revenue would cover our badge sales and whatever. And what I can say is that we did at least break even. So, and we weren't in it for profit either. Just to clear this up, any money that we would make, after the event, which we're still calculating and everything, is going to be to cover what other expenses we have, and then whatever's left over from that is just going to go to charity. So,
okay, that's great. I don't know if people knew that.
I don't think people knew that. We did this event not to make money. We did it to promote all these companies helping out and to just promote esports. Obviously, that's what it's called, the Gigabyte Esports Plan. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people don't understand that.
Okay, so I guess so it sounds like the $40,000 was covered by just all your just the sponsorship money.
We were a little short, but we made it up with whatever our badge sales and things like that. So. But yes, most of it, I would say like 98% of it was covered by sponsorship.
Okay, great. And just so people also understand, how, I guess how much of a responsibility, you take as being, the organizer, event director, or just, the founder of the event. If for some reason you guys come up short, what happens?
If for any reason we come up short, I don't think Gigabyte would be upset at all. I think they're extremely happy with the outcome of the event because all of their partners are extremely happy, aka sponsors, and they did get the crowd, and we basically exceeded what they expected. So I think if we did fall short, they really wouldn't have a problem with it because they felt it was well worth the investment. But I don't think that's the case. I'm very, very, very positive we at least broke even with it.
Okay, excellent. Sounds good. All right, let's get into the actual tournament structure itself, and starting with, I guess, the decision to have the pools, and then just kind of this pool round robin kind of bracket combination. Talk to us about whose idea was that?
That was John's idea. John. Well, no. I mean, we basically thought about going. Well, you know what? All these events do a lot of very cliche type of tournament structures, which is fine. That's not a problem. But we felt, hey, why don't we mix it up? We had a very different idea before, but that kind of went to the can because there were a lot of complications of trying to doing it. So, but basically, John and I talked about it for a while, and he said, why don't we do this live drawing? And then I was able to get it sponsored by Dolby. And I think it worked out well. To me, as long as it works, I don't really care about how it's done. That's my viewpoint on it. But John has a lot of experience, so I said, John, why don't you take care of this and try to figure out what you think would be a good way of going about it. So, I mean, John, you can kind of explain more about that.
It also had a lot to do with the number of players that we had. Obviously, we only had 24. That's kind of an odd number. Most people don't use 24. The reason behind the thinking of 24 originally was because 32 just seemed like a lot, and thank God that we didn't go with 32.
Yeah.
And 16 would have meant you could have either done 2 groups of 8, which would have been 7 matches to go through, which would have been quite a bit, or you could have done, which would basically been like a mini league, or you could have done 4 groups of 4. And groups of 4 is regurgitated. It's overdone all the time. And a lot of times that last match for most teams in a group of 4 doesn't really mean much. So the idea behind a group of 6 was that it would be 5 matches that the players would get to play. And it worked out that actually only one group, in looking back on it, we kind of looked at it as we were kind of putting the brackets together, only one group in which the last match for each player was not significant. There was an opportunity for every player to get in to the group of into the brackets on their last match, except for one person who had not won anything at that point. So that was kind of the idea. Instead of just 3 matches, give the players an opportunity to play more matches. You basically get more value for your opportunity. Plus, only 2 out of each group weren't going to make it in. You were still going to have a bracket of 16, so only 8 players did not make the bracket. And if people aren't aware, every player that made the bracket got paid. So, and that wasn't on me. That was
Nice.
that was the idea. That was kind of just thrown out there. Like, why not? Why not? I mean, the prize pool of 10,000 is not a huge amount to begin with, but why not reward all of those that do make it into the bracket and try to pay out as much as we can. So if you didn't make it into the obviously one of the issues was, well, why does it go single elimination? And that's probably a discussion for another time because it just irritates the crap out of me. But if you're going to play 5 matches in a group, then why would you need double elimination in brackets? And that's obviously people are going to have their different opinions on it. So, but that
Double elimination is dumb to begin with.
yeah, I agree. Well, we can discuss that later too. And I know that Carmack feels the same. He wrote up something about it too. So
Yeah, I remember that.
they got 5 matches. They were assured 5 matches, which was really good for the players. So, and then single elimination, and I think it worked out. Now, I will say that I think the groups of 6 would have been even better had the disparity between the skill level been less. Had, let's say the pool of players would have had 16 or 17, 18 really good players that you're like, these guys are all going to do well in the bracket. Then the groups would have been, I think, a little bit more exciting because there would have just been, I mean, you could have looked at it before the event and looked at each of the groups that were drawn, and the way that we set up the pools, it actually worked out. Only 1 player out of the last pool made it into the brackets, I believe. It may have been 2, but the way that we set up the pools, it was the disparity between the lower tiered players, the lower tier of 8 and the top tier of 8, which of course was the Koreans and the foreigners, was pretty big. But I think had that been less, then I think the group play would have been a lot more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you say, like what you mean by that, but I mean, it also gave the opportunity for some of those folks to have, really huge wins too, right? I mean, it was kind of evenly distributed, whereas like you could look at the polls, you could almost pick out who was going to make it. I mean,
right.
and that's pretty much what ended up happening. But I kind of like the fact that at least you gave a lot of those players a chance to to shine against it, because a lot of these players don't get. They usually maybe just get one shot in a tournament to maybe have a big win over, say, a Korean or something.
Right.
And at least you give them like 4 or 5 chances to try, in a lot of cases to try to beat somebody that's considered better than them.
And almost every match was streamed, which was good for those players as well. And like I said, I mean, it really did come down to almost every group. Well, we couldn't fill out the brackets until the group play was done. There were some bracket spots that we were able to fill out because we knew that 1st through 6th. So obviously some of the groups finished earlier than the others, but there were 2 groups at least that it came down to the last match. Like if one thing had happened, if so and so had lost, and this person wins, 2-0 or 2-1, then it would have changed everything. Now, with that being said, and this might be further down the line in our discussion, but with that being said, I know on CSN's part, we failed miserably in creating that drama for that. I mean, that should have probably been something that CSN, because we were kind of managing the brackets, we knew what was going on with scores and such. I mean, Bobby's overseeing everything. Trevor's running around helping everywhere he can, and here we are. We're sitting there and we're managing the brackets. We're seeing the scores, and I'm not afraid to admit at all that we probably failed miserably at trying to get that information out there and kind of creating that drama. I mean, it came down to the last match, like I said, for at least 3 groups, and we could have laid that information to the StarCraft 2 community, and I think it would have created a little bit more interest in the matches that were happening. So I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Bobby. I screwed that one up.
I mean, there's several things. So it's not you can't just point the finger at one thing, right? So.
Right.
I mean, I'm just interested in one thing, really. and this is me putting on my critical shoes for just a minute. But Bobby, you said that Gigabyte and all your sponsors gauged that event as a huge success. And from my point of view, where I was watching, that's not something that I would have wanted to have my name on. So why or how or in what way are you guys saying that this LAN was successful?
It was because of the on-site numbers, and basically also because of the sponsor interaction with the people at the event. They all knew that this was a first-time thing, and they understood basically where the problems were coming from, and they were okay with it. They didn't really put too much focus onto the online viewers, mainly because they were there because they wanted to show people their products at the event and talk to them and whatnot. So that's why I say that, for them, they thought it was very successful.
Yeah, the schedule has actually changed several times to facilitate that very thing. I mean, from what I do, we deal mostly on online events, right? And so stream numbers are kind of important to us because we want those eyeballs on our product. And so at first, that was kind of my focus, and it was made very clear in talking with Bobby and Gigabyte that really for them it was about getting people in the door. And we surpassed the goal that they had set. Is that correct, Bobby?
Yep.
Yeah, they had.
I talked to all the companies one-on-one, and I said, hey, how do you like this? What didn't you like? And they basically said they loved it when they were there.
And those that I talked with, or that my staff members went around and kind of gauged wherever how everyone was doing, they very much liked it. I mean, it's not 1,000 or 2,000 people packed into a huge area. It was 500 up to 500 people, right? A total or something like that.
It was a little more than that.
Okay, so in and out, there were so many components to this. There were so many rooms. There was how many rooms did we have used or reserved, including the arcade?
5, I think, if you don't count the player lounge. So 6.
Yeah, 6. Yeah, 6. I would count the player lounge because it's still something that had to be managed.
Oh, yeah,
There were
6
6 rooms in which spectators at the event could basically be a part of, and so I know at times it would look like it was pretty sparse, and obviously that's a little bit on us because of the downtime, as you alluded to. Ben, I mean, with the longer the downtime, obviously people are just going to get up and walk away. But it wasn't that they were walking out, which was the thing, and that was good for the sponsors.
They just went to go do something else, basically.
Right, because there was more to do at this event.
Just to add to that real fast, I was walking around doing my normal rounds, and I'd go into the media room, which is where companies would present their product or give keynote speeches or give demos or something, and most of the time, I think maybe we had more than 80 people in those rooms. I've seen a lot of times the room was packed. So I think the companies were really happy that they got the audience there and the people were interested in their product.
Yeah, I didn't even have a chance to go down there, but I would just remember after a match, and they would make an announcement that, like, let's say, for instance, Gigabyte was going to be doing some sort of, live media, demonstration or whatever. You would just see all these people leaving, and at first, I was like, what the hell? What's going on? So I'd immediately jump on, okay, why is our stream down? What's going on? Are people leaving? Did we screw something up? And it turns out they were all heading down to that small theater room, which was actually really cool that they had that. And then, of course, we would run some StarCraft 2, or we'd run some other things, and so it really was, for the sponsors, it was key for people to be at the event. It's not that they could care less about the stream numbers, but not one time did a sponsor ask me about stream numbers. Like, what are our stream numbers looking like?
That is absolutely true. They never really asked about stream numbers. They were just asking how many people were at the event.
How much of it was, and not to take anything away from that at all, but how much of it was sponsors that this was like their first time doing anything with, in esports versus, another company maybe like what was Kingston's response to all of it? Kingston's obviously done, just more with esports and, might have a different expectation than another company like, I don't know, Dolby or something like that.
Right, so Kingston actually didn't get a booth. They at the last minute they said, oh well, we don't have enough manpower. So there on Friday though, they just didn't have their booth. But when I spoke to them, they were very happy with it because one of the things that they told me, I believe it was someone from UEG, he said this is really awesome because this is more of a one-on-one experience with our fans rather than a PAX or whatever where there's thousands of people and it seems like everyone is just kind of like a number and it's just going quick. So now they get to, at this type of event, they get to engage with their customers and their fan base, and I think for them that was very valuable to them.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I was worried. And I know Bobby was worried too. Like,
I was, my heart was pumping.
But we never once, initially at first, it was like, okay, comparing to Lone Star, like, okay, can we get 50,000? Well, I knew right off the bat, you're not going to get 50,000 viewers for StarCraft 2. The StarCraft 2 numbers are dwindling anyway. But we knew we'd get a good number for League of Legends. So at first, like I said, the conversation was about the stream numbers. Then we realized that, this event was not about that. This event was not about the stream numbers. So if people are out there, StarCraft 2 fans and whatnot, are gauging it based on the stream numbers, they're gauging it for the wrong on the wrong reasons. It really was not about the stream numbers for this event.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. It's very interesting. It's kind of a new. We're used to looking at an event, but anyway, guys, I've got to slide out of here. But thanks, Bobby, for coming on and kind of sharing those insights, and you too, Trevor.
Sure.
And I'm sorry that I can't stick around longer. I love to rant and rave, but I've got a cast that I've got to go get to.
Cool. All right, thanks, man.
See you guys.
Have fun.
Good luck.
Okay, yeah, that's a really interesting way of looking. I mean, definitely, I think the majority of the people in the community would have, wouldn't have thought that. I guess the sponsors would have been as, quite as happy. But that's really cool that you shed some light on, the most important thing is to have the sponsors happy, right? So I think we want sponsors to keep participating, investing in these events. So if they're happy, that's really all that matters, I think, in the end. So that's really, really cool.
It's not that it wasn't disappointing, though, that only 3,000 or 5,000 total at one point were tuning into StarCraft 2, because there were some good players. And Chris, I'll ask you, I guess right now I kind of interrupt the flow of things, but you and I had talked quite a bit before the event, just about the player list. Like, what was it that made Lone Star a success? Well, part of it was there was a lot of things it did because it was the first. And later on, if you ask me, since I was at both events, I'm more than willing to compare the two. But one thing that you had talked about early in the process was looking at our player list was you definitely had some strong opinions on it. Do you mind?
Yep.
I mean, give me.
Yeah,
I want to know what was it about the player list? What do events need to do nowadays to pull people in?
Yeah, sure. I can share that with you guys. My biggest problem with the player list when we were first looking at it, and I was talking to John about it, Bobby. I didn't really mention it to you at the time. Is I just didn't see any storylines, and for me, I feel like one thing that's lacking in a lot of these events is really the potential for storylines. And a lot of these events are just all about like fairness and just these random drawings, or it's about just bringing in just the quote unquote top players, which a lot of times means Koreans, and that doesn't actually equate to like interest, a large viewership or interest a lot of times. Just to bring up Lone Star, just again, I mean, Lone Star, the actual talent distribution, it was, they had a little bit bigger names, I think, like from the top end standpoint, but the overall talent standpoint, it was probably similar. It's just the thing about Lone Star I think they did differently was that they had, very compelling potential stories. You can never guarantee that a storyline is going to happen, right? Because you can't fix these matches so that somebody loses and somebody wins. But you can kind of generally lay things out so that potential rivalries or potential matchups can happen, right? Like, for instance, like, just say a Stefano Polt, right, at Lone Star Clash. That was huge at Lone Star Clash, right? And that ended up happening. Or even just having, like, In Control and Sleep playing each other in the first round, and In Control beating Sleep. That was a storyline.
But it was not expected either, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it wasn't expected.
Had
but
Sleep
it was-
beat him, it's actually it probably was still a storyline because at that point people still didn't know who Sleep really was.
No, yeah, I mean, well, it probably wouldn't have been. I mean, it wouldn't have probably made that big a difference, but still, I mean, like, I think, having In Control, beat Sleep, and particularly in the case where a lot of people were dogging on In Control, like on the way he's been playing recently, having him beat him, that was huge. That was a huge storyline. Just having In Control there in the first place, right, was a way to kind of set up that story. Now, when we're looking at, like, the GESL players, you had some folks that were, that could have. I mean, at least the original lineup. I remember seeing the original lineup, and I felt like there were more players there that could make a story. And that's what it's about. It's just about a story. It's about just one compelling story, or maybe a few, that really capture everybody, that really get people talking, even whether on Reddit or on TL or whatever. And, and I think an original lineup, there was some. And I know, like, as it got close to the tournament, there were a lot of people that had to either go to DreamHack all of a sudden, or couldn't make the flight, or couldn't travel, or for what, because of funding or whatever. And I know, getting that 24 together was very much a last minute thing. But, the end product, like with the end player pool, I just didn't feel like there were many potential. I mean, there were a lot of players that were, like, they're kind of known, you know what I mean, like kind of mid-tier players, I guess you would say, and mid-tier from a foreigner standpoint, and then mid-tier from a Korean standpoint. So, I mean, Monster, like, I knew about Monster, and I was, like, happy that Monster did so well, because he had such a great run in Anaheim, which I'm not sure a lot of people even knew. Right, but he had an awesome run in Anaheim. That was, I thought, second to only Sase, and so I was actually happy to see him. But I think most people wouldn't have known that. I mean, most people aren't watching like that closely. So not having the like let's just say the Muslim did well or something like that, right? That would have made more news, right? But having the Koreans that did do well get all the way through, and most of them being Zerg too. It was, it was definitely.
It was expected. It was predictable.
Yeah, definitely predictable. So that was my whole thing. It was just, I feel like sometimes, event, coordinators or people in charge of picking the player pools don't really think about that so much. It's not about having the best players. Sometimes it's about just having the right players in the tournament. And Koreans, I've always felt like, as long as you have enough Koreans to validate your tournament, you're cool. Like DreamHack, right? Had only a couple of Koreans, but it validated it enough that, it was still considered a really top tournament, even with majority of them being EU, right? So that's what it's about, and, that's really the main comment I had about the player pool. I mean, I know Scarlet was on it recently. Scarlet would have been cool, right? QXC was on it, before. QXC would have been... so I know you guys ended up having challenges y'all didn't anticipate. So,
Well, maybe Bobby can actually allude on how the players were. Well, they weren't necessarily picked. Bobby, do you want to explain how the player situation worked out?
Yeah, and it's also added to my list of things I would change for the next event. Was we went out and we basically said to team managers. We sent them like an invite and said you could send out 2 players, and I think that was one of the problems too, that I don't think I would do next time.
Yeah.
I mean, some teams didn't even respond,
right.
Which was at least send something back and say, we're sorry, but we're not going to send any players at this time. But it's pretty unprofessional for teams just not even to respond.
Well, it's. I mean, in general, I don't think that's a great, a great process because for you guys to do that. Because what happened is, like, even if a team does send players, they might send players you don't want.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And we're lucky that we got players all that we wanted. Obviously, I mean, we want to say that. I mean, every single player there was awesome to work with, and they were great people. But we were at the mercy of the players themselves, of the teams themselves, on who they
Right.
wanted to send. So
And I think that was one of the things. That it felt like, in regards to the player picking process, it was just the control was with the not with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will change next time.
and granted, it's probably difficult for a new tournament
Right.
with no experience in the past as far as a tournament goes, and these as awesome as they were, all these awesome sponsors, and a team looking at it going, not quite sure where this tournament's going to go. You know, they don't have quite the experience that we maybe we're used to, or we know they've never ran an event, so they may be a little bit more hesitant. Plus, of course, DreamHack. I mean, a lot of teams are sending their top players to DreamHack. Understandably so. DreamHack's an amazing event, and they've been doing it for a long time. So,
Yeah, it was mostly DreamHack, I think. I mean, you can make a claim, I guess a claim that it was prize pool and that kind of things, but I think even if you had the same prize pool and the fact that everybody was already in Anaheim, you would have had a better turnout, I think, if DreamHack just wasn't around. I guess most of the DreamHack actually were EUers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess that's kind of a
Well,
counter.
even according to Andrew from CSN, John, we had Stefano at a point,
Yes.
but then their sponsors for Millennium decided to take him to DreamHack.
yeah. It's the same thing with QXC. I mean, we had QXC in line, and it was a sponsor call. It wasn't even really the team call.
Yeah, I mean, I just had lunch with Scott, like the manager at Complexity, like literally an hour ago, and he told me that Kevin QXC wanted to be at y'all's event more than he wanted to go to DreamHack, but it was a sponsor, it was a sponsor's request.
Right. So once again, it just shows we're kind of at the liberty of the sponsors, and that includes an event that's being run, teams that are there, getting interviews with certain players. You may not always be able to do that because the sponsor basically, pulls on the strings.
Yeah, which is kind of tough sometimes, obviously.
Probably a topic for another day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we spent a lot of time on StarCraft 2, and I kind of wanted to, I know, who was it that posted at least on the League of Legends Reddit, just that we were going to talk a little bit about League of Legends and GSL. So why don't we do that? Let's talk about League, and we can actually even backtrack a little bit and talk about funding for League. And I know there's this whole big thing to discuss there. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
It was difficult. It was an uphill battle. I'm going to say that much. Basically, with League of Legends, as far as funding goes, it was all funded by our budget, of course. I did speak to Riot several months before the event, try to get their support, but, no dice on that.
Can I elaborate on that real quick?
Sure, go ahead, John.
Just so it's clear, the reasoning behind why Riot was not supporting it. Well, let me rephrase that. The reason why they weren't financially supporting the event, as far as putting money towards the prize pool, I don't know if anyone remembers, but Riot had basically said that it would set aside, I believe it was $100,000 for mid-tier and online events to help support them. One of the reasons, and this is coming straight from Riot, and I do agree with it to some point, was that we had too many good teams. I know for some people that's going to be like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But that was actually the case. It was because our teams were too good. They were already part of the teams that make money playing Riot, playing League of Legends. And so the idea at Riot was we want to support organizations and that are trying to grow new teams. They're trying to get new teams involved in League of Legends, because we already give enough money on the circuit and in various other tournaments. We already give enough to the teams that continually win, like TSM and Curse and CLG and such. So it's an interesting concept. It's an interesting thing to think that you go to ask for support for some of the best teams in the world, and they say no, it's because your teams are too good. But it is what it is, and I understand their thinking behind it. And I explained that to the person I talked to at Riot. But at the same time, I said, hey, this is still an opportunity to bring in new teams. I mean, one of the new teams, Dirt Nap, was just awesome, and a lot of people were rooting for him because they were new. And so I do understand the idea, but at the same time, it's not like all 8 teams were the top. I mean, there were some new teams in there, and I think it could have been beneficial to put a little bit more towards it. So
It shouldn't have been about the teams, though, in participating as much as it, you would think that qualification would be about the event, more so than just the teams. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what if John CSN decided to do just a small League of Legends thing, and you happen to, bring on, like, 4 of the best teams, like TSM and, CLG and whoever.
I don't know. I mean,
like,
we've gotten
it's weird.
support. We've gotten support from Riot before, even in terms of Riot points. We've gotten support from them. And
Well, just to clarify, they were going to give us like riot points and like I think it was like $500 to the winner, but it was just like that. To me, it's not about the money. It's about getting the support from the developer for promoting the exposure of our event. And I even asked for like the tournament servers or the tournament realm servers or whatever, and we didn't even get that. And again, I just want to clarify, it's not like I was asking for giving me money, but just some exposure of the event, having them post on Facebook and Twitter about it, and helping us with the tournaments and stuff. But unfortunately, it just didn't get to that point.
Well, that is disappointing, and I can say it because I guess I can. That is really disappointing and unacceptable in my opinion. That an organization that claims to be all about esports now, granted that's not where they started with League of Legends. They never expected this, but now they're pumping all this time and effort and money into promoting League of Legends as an esport. And here's an event with some of the top players, and you can't even get a Facebook or a tweet about it. And the reasoning behind not being able to get kind of in their game stream information, I'm not quite sure how it works, but we were asking basically for in-game information about this event, although DreamHack did get it. Apparently it's because DreamHack, this is, again, directly from Riot, DreamHack is on their circuit. We're not. And they only post events there that are on their circuit, which to me...
Right. I mean, they told me that they had prior engagements with DreamHack.
Right, which is understandable. I mean, that makes perfect sense. My personal opinion is I think it's a horrible and very poor marketing decision. I mean, why not promote every event that has the top teams, every event that's promoting the growth of your game?
Well, why not promote the event that's actually live? Because your event was live at least some of the time when DreamHack wasn't, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Why can't they just have a link to y'all stuff when DreamHack is actually offline?
Right.
So that's okay. That's weird.
But
Interesting.
And I'll continue to talk with Matt and kind of just find out where they were at with it. I mean, there may have been some good reasoning behind it. But it is disappointing, and I told Matt Marcoux at Riot that that's very frustrating. It just felt like, hey, can we at least get a tweet? Can we get something out there that says, hey, check out the GESL. They've got TSM, CLG, Curse.
The top North American team.
Yeah, I don't. I guess I just don't get it. It's mind blowing.
So they did end up helping. They did come and support you guys towards the end of the tournament. Is that correct, or?
Well, basically what happened was, obviously on Sunday they released the patch. I know servers.
About that. Yeah. Talk about the patch and how it affected the tournament.
It greatly affected the outcome of at the end of the League of Legends event. The patch went out. We had to update it on the computers, which we did, and then we found out, the servers are down. So, of course, the only thing we could do is have everyone contact Riot, right? That's what you have to do. You have to get a hold of them And they did try to work with us on trying to get the tournament realm for us finally. And when we did get it working after being delayed so much, because you're pretty much reinstalling the game, and you have to download it and put it up on a lot of computers, and it just took a lot of time to do that. I mean, that's out of our control. But once we actually got that, then they said, well, someone's driving a riot to get us login information for getting the players in the games and everything. And after all that was said and done, when people were finally in the games, the casters could not, cast the League of Legends finals, as well as the third place match with, I believe it was Dynamic and CLG. So there's a bug, I guess, with the client for the tournament realm where you cannot spectate. You cannot use the spectator feature; it just crashes. So we were basically SOL and couldn't get it casted. And our last resort was to basically have the game streamed through Reginald's computer, which he was okay with. So that was that.
Which was really awesome of him to
Right.
do that, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and it turned out well, and you still had a pretty packed group of people watching these guys play up on stage, which, the setup wasn't ideal. You could only really see 2 or 3 of the guys from each team, really get a good look at them. And there's this big empty screen, because we couldn't put it on the screen. Was that correct?
Right.
Because
Well, we
delayed it, though.
Yeah, and it basically didn't obviously have any caster, voicing or anything like that, but
Yeah. And
this
there
was,
were still people that enjoyed it.
and I guess on the online stream, and this was totally unintentional, was they heard the chat from the players, which I guess people loved, which was
Yeah, that was a
unintentional.
big
Yeah,
part.
which is good. I mean, I mean that they do this chat like in other events too, but I think the fact that it was it was so long, and basically you were just hearing TSM's entire chat for a while, right?
Right.
That it was really cool to hear, because whenever they do that switch over or whatever you call it, there's a term for it. I
Listen
forget
in.
what it
It's
is.
called a
Listen in. Yeah, listen in. It's always only for like 15 seconds or 20 seconds, right?
Mhm.
And you don't really get a real sense of like what these guys are calling out whenever they're trying to like set up a gank or just moving together across the map, right? So yeah, I think a lot of people enjoyed that.
The
which
fact
is
that
cool.
they offered that they were okay with that too is like amazing, because you're basically hearing a team strategy during a match, and
Right.
and that's that was really a pretty good thing for TSM and Reginald to do for us, considering how things went with them on Saturday.
So how did the players react to all of it? I mean, were they okay? I mean, were they pretty patient with everything, or?
Yeah, I would say that at first TSM was, Andy was really tired. They've been traveling a lot, and at first he was kind of frustrated with the whole thing. But once we kind of talked to him and let him know what was going on, he understood, and then he started working with us. So, Andy, if you're listening, thank you. But I mean, overall, all the players understood what was going on. Obviously, what happened on Sunday was out of our control. We did the best we could to control what happened, and it is what it is. But I think on Saturday everything was really well. Obviously, on Friday we had the delay at the beginning, which we caught up. But I think overall, those League of Legends teams were very happy and understanding of what was going on.
Right, and it's not, and to make it clear, for at least for me, because I was on the Reddit threads, which is just mind-boggling that I spent time on that, because it just hurts my brain. But I was on the Reddit threads for the League of Legends stuff, basically trying to put those facts out there. But one thing that needs to be clear is that it's not blaming Riot. Nobody is saying
Correct.
Riot did something on purpose. Riot purposely patched just the North America servers and tried to sabotage the event. Nobody's blaming Riot. Those things happen. They had a patch that was scheduled to happen, for whatever reason. Maybe this was before they realized, oh shit, we got 2 events going on that day. One of them happens to be North American. These things happen. Bugs, they happen all the time in coding.
Mm-hmm.
And every event The very first MLG event, I can attest to this, in a conversation with Sundance while having a beer. I said, so how's the League of Legends stuff going? He goes, man, I don't know if we'll work them. I don't know if we'll use this game again. They were having, remember the first League of Legends at MLG? Huge problems. But these are all things that happen when you're trying to take a game that was not meant to be esports and you're trying to build on it to be esports. These things happen. It's normal. It's perfectly normal for these things to happen. It just happened to have happened right when we needed it not to. So there's no blame on Riot. It's not Riot's fault. It's just what it is. It's the facts of the situation. It was nothing on our part. We didn't purposely delay it. We didn't make a mistake. And we did have a plan B. Plan B was the tournament realm. And originally we just weren't going to get support for that. And I can attest to that because CSN has asked for it before too. After having it a month earlier, we were told no tournament realm. Just because I think they were obviously trying to get away from that. It's a headache. The tournament realm thing is just a headache to deal with. So I just wanted to be clear that I don't think anyone is blaming Riot.
Right, and that's important to note, is that when we posted on Reddit, about the issue, it was to let people know, because here's the thing, if you don't let these people know what's going on, then they're going to just start making assumptions and say, they did this, whatever it was. But that wasn't the case. We wanted people to know what was going on, and, we didn't want to piss more people off that we've already made upset, so, I think that's really important to note.
Okay, great. That sounds like that was pretty crazy. I mean, what would you guys have done if Reggie didn't do that?
Asked one of the other players.
Yeah, ask the other 9
team.
players.
And
Awesome.
and at first we thought, well, let's ask CLG because TSM was pretty frustrated at this point, and rightfully so. I mean, both teams should have been a little frustrated. But I think everyone knows Reginald can be quite vocal, and he can be, and I'll say it because I've talked to him in person before. He can be a major asshole at times, and that's kind of who he is in some ways. But when we talked with him, and he kind of, I think he saw that it really wasn't an issue that we could deal with, or that we could change at that point. But he could see that we were on the phone with Riot. We were doing everything. We were trying to think of every possible way how to stream it to the smaller theater. The delay issues, trying to figure out anything and everything that we could do, like put a webcam up on one of the players from behind him so we could watch it, so we could get up on stream. Everything. We were thinking of anything. I think once he saw that, he said, you know what, these guys are doing everything that they can, and I'm on board to help. So I was really, really impressed with how he handled that, as opposed to him being upset and frustrated from Saturday, and then of course this happening on Sunday.
I think he was upset on Friday about the delays mainly.
Oh, Friday, correct, yes.
Yeah.
Saturday was amazing.
Yeah, Saturday ran smooth as silk.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. I mean, it sounds like, that's amazing that y'all, were able to kind of put that together, or figure that out so quickly. Because a lot of people don't understand, when these fires happen, I mean, it's all about quick thinking and coming up with these type of solutions, And we're just sitting here watching at home, wondering why is the stream down, that kind of thing. And this is the reason. There's these crazy situations that occur, and so y'all did a good job there, given the crazy obstacles there. Let's see. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about was, we talked a little bit about the players already, but I kind of want to talk to you about the casters, hostesses, and players. And why don't we start with the casters and hostesses a little bit, and then we'll kind of, I guess end with players. And so casters and hostesses. I guess first off, how were they picked, and how do you think they did?
Do you want me to take this one, or start it off? Or?
Yeah, you do it. It's all you.
Okay, so the casters, basically, I of course wish we had the Day 9, we had the Husky, whatever, but, going back to our budget, given that, difficult. So we kind of had to get, first of all, our focus is with the SoCal scene. We wanted to focus on the SoCal casters, like Thunder Toss, Gwynn, Garrett, Zoya. He was very close as well. And, also going off of the whole MLG thing being, the week before, Jorisar was there, and Garrett actually helped pick a lot of the casters. And one of them, of course, Doa, I talked to Scott Ball or, Rumcake from his Ghost, and so he liked to do it. I spoke to Doa, and we had Doa, and he was a great choice. And then basically we were scrambling to find another caster, and we were able to get GESL, and that was great too. Everyone really liked him, and I think it was overall a good pick. But I guess if you're asking me, well, what would you do next time? Is I would have more budget to get very popular casters, because I think that would have helped a lot. I spoke to Husky, but Husky had a lot of other prior engagements, and that was pretty much the main thing. Is I think one of the things I would do next time is basically just get very popular casters. But given our player pool too, it's kind of the way it was. I mean, it was just really difficult. It was a difficult time, obviously, with DreamHack too. Now you have a lot of these casters going to DreamHack as well. We did speak to DJ Wheat for a long time, and he was going to come, but then he had to go to DreamHack. So.
And he really did want to come to ours. He was already in Anaheim. He was going to be there for a while, and I spoke to him personally. But he had never done a DreamHack before, so this is a great opportunity for him. But he was tired of traveling and wanted to be home, or local in the United States at least. And then, of course, Twitch had a big presence at DreamHack, so it just made sense.
Right.
Dude, Wheat was definitely a baller this last 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
He had an ear infection, I think, at the end of Anaheim.
Yeah, he was not feeling well at all.
Yeah, he was, sick. And he still got over there, and, I mean, he did amazing, too. So he was a baller this weekend. This whole week.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to say something about the casters. I don't put a lot of stock in whether a caster is popular or not, personally. I like to work with casters at CSN, one that we can afford. So that helps.
Yeah.
And two, guys that really have a passion for doing it, and it's not about the money first. It's really about being the best that they can. And a lot of these guys just had so much passion. I mean, when I met some of them, these guys, they were so excited for this opportunity to do this. And I thought they were great. And when I was checking the Team Liquid threads and stuff, it wasn't like there was a lot of, oh, this guy's great, oh, they're doing great. It wasn't a lot of praise. But I personally did not see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Team Liquid threads that I was following, I really didn't see a lot of caster hate, I guess. I didn't really see a lot of people saying, oh, so-and-so wasn't very good, or,
I saw the opposite, actually.
Yeah, occasionally we see it, but it wasn't overwhelmingly, at least from what I saw. But at least there was usually in the StarCraft 2 community, if someone is not a very good caster, people will let you know. They will definitely let you know.
And I'm happy that we brought in those casters, because it gives them a chance, to grow what they do. And, and I feel like that also kind of ties in with growing esports, making more people involved, giving the opportunities to, all the players and casters and whoever.
Right. Yeah, they did an amazing job. I mean, everything I saw, especially, even the guys that you would say are probably were the least known out of all of them, which was Jersar and Zoya. Zoya. I mean, Azale's obviously the Master Cup. Everybody kind of, I think, knows him from that. But yeah, those two did a great job. I mean, I think a lot of people don't know who those guys are, and I mean, they sound like they've been doing it for a while. And obviously, I think guys like Axel Toss and Doa and Gwen even now, they're kind of they're starting to become a little more mainstay. People know who those guys are, and who else was there? Thunder Toss. I think Thunder Toss did a great job too, and
you gotta love his hair.
Yeah, exactly.
And that goes for the League of Legends casters too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wombat did an awesome job.
Yeah, he did. I just told him he needs to change his T-shirt though. Everyone was wearing. You know what? But people like the T-shirt. I mean, he's one of those guys like you close your eyes and just listen to him. Like he sounds like a radio host or something. Like he should be doing rock and roll. But
then you see him and he's like gonna beat your ass, man.
Yeah, he almost did. But I thought every caster that we brought in, and there was 2 other guys that helped out with the League of Legends stuff that stepped up to help, because at one point, I mean, it was only Torch and Wombat.
Yeah, Torch is awesome.
Yeah, and they were doing what they do best, and we were trying to get as much League of Legends content on stream as we could, so it required either they solo cast or we pull in a couple more guys, and I know that we got 2 more guys to help out, and both of them did great. There was a lot of good positive feedback on Reddit, which of course I say I don't take a lot of stock in, but I suppose if they're saying nice things I will. So they were saying a lot of good things about some of the casting that was done, so I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, which were Kobe 24 and Diggity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Good stuff. It's so hard to solo cast LOL.
Oh,
I mean,
I can't imagine. I can't imagine doing
crazy
any
hard.
cast
So,
period.
yeah, so that's awesome that they stepped up. So, as for the hostesses, with was it Rachel and Megumi?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did y'all think? Oh, so first off, I want to ask you guys. MLG recently. Well, I said it's just a general question. Do you think the host or hostesses? I mean, in the past they've always been, either Rachel or another female, right? Whether it's
Anna Prosser.
Yeah, Anna or Rachel. I mean, do you guys feel like they're better than male hosts? Like MLG, obviously the last MLG had, God, I'm drawing a blank.
Hey,
Who was
does it matter? Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
There's 99% dudes sitting in the
Okay.
audience. All right?
There we go.
You put an attractive woman up there, and it gets attention. Now, what's interesting is that when people first see Rachel, and she is not afraid to talk about this directly as well, but when you first see Rachel for a bunch of StarCraft and League of Legends geeks, which is what we are, we're gaming geeks, they see this woman up here and they're like, whoa, that's awesome, and she's great. Then they hear her talk, and they hear her do an interview, or they hear her do a raffle. They're like, wow, she's really good at what she does. Or they have an interview with Megumi, and at first they're like really nervous, like, oh boy, what am I going to do? Then my daughter shows up, and then they, but then they sit down with her and they talk with her for a little bit, and they realize, they're pretty serious about what they do. They're really serious about what they do, and they really want to be involved. So, I mean, admittedly, Rachel is a nice pick because she's good at what she does, and she happens to be a female, and she happens to be attractive. So, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the question, I guess, Rachel does a great job. I mean, Rachel's been doing this forever, so she does. I mean, it was more geared towards the Megumi pick because, Megumi ended up doing some LOL interviews that I know she doesn't know LOL, very much, right? In fact, I think some of the questions she asked were, a little strange, to some of the players afterwards. So I guess, would a male host in that case that knows LOL been a better pick? Like Megumi for StarCraft makes sense, absolutely. She knows StarCraft really well. She's a really good player. But LOL, I know she hasn't played much LOL, and I just felt like that was a weird kind of.
That was her choice, to be honest.
Was it?
Yeah,
wow.
we gave.
Okay.
I suppose without going into too much detail, there goes a huge thanks to Megumi for being at the event Saturday and Sunday. I mean, a huge thanks, because with budget issues, it would have been difficult to it would have been difficult to pay her what she's deserved, and she offered to come Saturday and Sunday to help. And one of the agreements was, she said, "Do you mind if I get content?" And we said, "Absolutely. You get whatever content that you want." And so that's what she did. She chose to get content for League of Legends. It may be because she's trying to break into League of Legends or whatever it may be, but that's what she did.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, that's good to know. I mean, obviously, a lot of people don't know some of these stories, right, behind the scenes. So, props to Megumi for that. Just to end off, I want to talk a little bit about the players. I know a lot of the players, as much, criticism or whatever that's been going on Reddit and, all this stuff regarding just, some of the production side of it. I know the players were just really happy, like, with the event. So talk to us a little bit about, like, I guess, what you guys did from either whether it was logistics or it was just, like you said, like every player had their own computer, right? Just those kind of things. So that really made the players just super comfortable, and both sides, like StarCraft 2 and what you guys did for the league teams.
Sure, I think one of our goals with this whole thing too is to make sure that the players were comfortable. We know that they go to the MLG and they go to a lot of other events, and the word is that they don't really have the most enjoyable experience, And not only that, but I mean, MLG was the week before, and they've already been running around, and they're just tired at this point. So our goal is to make sure that, they're comfortable. Mm-hmm. So one of the first things that came to mind when we were planning the event was we need to have a player lounge, a place where they can just sit, relax, have some snacks, drinks, whatever. And that's what we did. And I think that was really nice to have for them. The other thing was having, a computer for every player. From what I understand, that doesn't happen a whole lot, and I think from them, at least what I heard, was that, it was really nice that they could just sit there the day and, do whatever they do. And, the computers themselves are really good. CyberPower provided them, and they had no issues with the internet nor the computers, and that was great. The other thing we did too, and this is mad props to Cal Poly Pomona volunteers, was that we were able to get rides for, I don't know, originally it was only, mainly for the Korean players, but it ended up being several players that we would, pick them up from their hotel, take them to the venue. Wow. They even stopped and got them food, and, obviously we did get food for all the players each day, and, we really, 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 really catered to them. So I think that was, I think they didn't expect that, and we did it. And, and it kind of fell onto our shoulders for us to do that, but we didn't say no, and we just kind of continued and rolled with it.
Yeah, that was a huge thing. Shout out to Joseph, Tim, Juna, Brendan, and William. They did an amazing job. I know They were on the road for, like 6-7 hours. One of our guys had to drive to an airport 30-40 minutes away in traffic to pick one of the casters up, and he was back there, 12 hours a day at the event. So
yeah, so it wasn't even players; it was called casters as well. So we didn't mind doing it at all. We want to make sure everything was running really well and that they were comfortable, and all I can hope is that they would agree with us.
Right. No, that's amazing. I didn't realize that so many. Basically, volunteers were basically chauffeuring people around so much.
And with that being said,
where were the Koreans staying? I mean, they were.
I was just going to say they're 5 minutes away.
Okay.
Yeah, the hotel was the closest hotel to the venue. But you got to remember, you're dealing with guys that don't speak English. Yeah. And so we made sure we had people. I mean, it's not like there wasn't a couple delays every once in a while making sure that we got someone to pick them up, but I was extremely impressed with the fact that anyone that needed a ride was able to get one. I mean, there was one, Will in particular was just driving all over. I mean, that's all he did a weekend was drive.
Yeah.
So it was, I mean, and they didn't necessarily, and you would think that they wouldn't be driving much once they got to the venue, because I personally thought the venue was kick-ass. I mean, you had food food places to go to. You had an arcade to play in and just chillax in and do whatever you wanted. You had a player lounge which was constantly supplied with Red Bull and food. Breakfast was supplied. I mean,
Yep, breakfast every single day for all the players and casters.
Yeah, so I mean, and I asked Axlov and Machine, straight up when the event was over, because I know those two guys, they won't pull any punches. They'll just say it like it is, And I said, what could we have done better? I mean, what was good? Did you enjoy yourself? And both of them were like, yeah, I mean, it was great. And I said, would it have been better had we gotten lunch too? And they're like, lunch? We were surprised to get breakfast. That's not what you get. That's not what you get at other events. And that's true. And maybe there's something to be said about being kind of like a mid-tier. You can concentrate more on the players, because you don't have this huge production, this huge WWE type sort of production. I mean, it really is about the players and about the competition. And of course, in this one, there was the component that it was a lot about getting spectators in the door, because there was all these booths set up, and we wanted to keep them happy too. But at the end of it, the players, I thought, were really happy. They were a little confused and about the format at first, and then having to, because it was in blocks, some of them didn't play until 7 o'clock at night, and I probably should have made that a little bit more clear. But I did tell them during the live drawing that, depending on where you get drawn, some of you may not play till later, but you know what? You have your own computer, there's food downstairs, and we'll take you to where you want to go. If you want to go take a nap, that's great. We'll get you back to your hotel. So it really wasn't an issue that I think they just were like, they wanted to get started. So but once it got started, I think they were all on the same page. And speaking of the live drawing for the players, I know this isn't part of what we were talking about, but I really wish we had gotten full video of that from the other perspective, like watching the players' faces, because I thought they really enjoyed it. And I asked a few of them afterwards. They thought, yeah, that was really cool. I mean, it's something. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, it's something the GSL does, but slightly different. But regardless of what some people say, and I've been in esports a long time, I've never once seen anything like that for any sort of live event in North America. So I thought it was a neat thing to have here and to let the players be a part of. And we wanted the players to be more a part of it, but obviously with the delay of things that were happening on day one, there was just some things we couldn't do logistically. So, but I think it worked out.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think I'm not sure how it would work out exactly, but I think it would be cool if it was a live drawing and they played immediately. Like you literally draw two people out of a hat and they play right there.
Right, and then you continue drawing until all the groups are done. That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, it would have been hard because then all the players literally have to sit there.
Yeah, for the whole time. Yeah, that would have been brutal.
There's something cool about that. Something cool about just the total.
I mean, there's so many different things. There's so many different formats and so many different ways of doing things, and I think we need to stop regurgitating the same old.
Yeah, exactly.
And try some new things, whether it's new players, whether it's new ways of putting things on stream. There just has to be things that we need to be trying. I mean, and it opens up the door for innovation. I mean,
yeah.
The numbers don't lie. StarCraft 2 viewer numbers are not going up; they're going down. So what can we do differently, maybe to pique the interest of people viewing? And that was one idea, and it didn't turn out exactly like I would have wanted it because it was kind of my baby. But I thought it turned out well enough, and we did it. Yeah. That's the thing. At the end of the day, every match got played. Every match, even a match in which a team wanted to forfeit because they thought it was meaningless. They were very adamant about it, and we went to them and we explained to them. And at first they were they didn't want to do it, but we said, listen, for the integrity of the event, let's play every match. These teams came here to play matches, and every match got played, and we crowned 2 champions at the end of it. So,
right, that's awesome, and I know at least every player got a chance on the stage too. That's cool. Yeah, so we're kind of wrapping things up here. So I wanted to first off let everybody know that we're going to do a quick Q&A at the end of this with with me, John, and Bobby and Trevor here. So why don't you guys start adding? I guess I need to add you, John, right? To the
Are we just going to do a call, no video?
Yeah, let's do call-ins. Let's just do call-ins from folks.
Yeah.
And what's your Skype ID?
It's CSN No, it's not CSN, excuse me. It's John Clark, 321-1974. I'll write it in here. too.
Yeah, we're gonna, why don't you put it in the stream chat. So guys, why don't you add John to Skype and we'll pull you into this call. But before we do that, I just want to spend like about 5 minutes and talk about just really the interaction with the spectators and just, oh my God, just all the giveaways you guys did. I mean, that was, I mean, I'm not, hopefully everybody realized how much stuff was given away there. I mean, there was, what, $31,000 worth of stuff? Is that correct?
It was originally, it was around 25, or if not more. Like,
Oh,
it
man.
was a
That's
ton of stuff. I mean,
amazing.
built systems and monitors, BenQ monitors, and
$1,000
Yeah, I mean-
processors.
$1,000 processors.
And that stuff, you know, guys, I mean, viewers, you have to realize that that kind of stuff is, you know, where the sponsors kind of come in, but it doesn't go towards the budget, right? I mean, this is basically going directly to us, you know, and really trying to engage the audience and have us participate in the event.
Any,
So,
and
that's awesome.
And at one point, I had mentioned to Irene at Gigabyte just an option. I'm like, well, why don't we just open it up so that anyone coming in the door could buy raffles? And you know, although some people will do that, she thought, you know what? She said what we wanted to do was give everyone a chance to win something. So we didn't want one guy to put $100, buy $100 in raffles and end up winning like 5 or 6 items. I think the most raffle tickets you could have was a total of 3. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have a total of 3, and that was based on certain things that you did, like pre-ordering, you know, pre-registering for the event and whatnot. But you saw people after a raffle, like 12 people, 12, 15, 20 people walking out with stuff, and I'm like, holy crap! I mean, they gave out
If not more.
Yeah, they gave out a lot of stuff. I mean, the process itself to give the stuff out took like 45 minutes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Rachel's just standing up there picking and
Yeah.
picking and picking and
And
picking.
speaking of that, they one of the Gigabyte reps said I was a little nervous at first because I didn't know if Rachel would have like a grasp of the product because some of these things were just kind of thrown in there, and she freaking nailed it.
Yep.
Rachel's awesome.
They're like, holy, she's amazing. I'm like, oh,
She's a boss.
she is
She really is.
She's good at
We
it.
will have Rachel on here one of these days, hopefully soon.
Yep, she said she would. We just gotta find time.
Exactly. All right, let's take some questions. How's that sound?
I have
Okay,
not had
definitely.
any.
Yeah, definitely.
I've not had anyone add me yet.
Well, I know Promise and Axel Toss want to get in here. If you want to just pull them on. Pull in Promise. Promise wants to ask some question.
Now I gotta find him. Promise. If he's listening, he needs to like message me.
If you guys got questions out there, just
Message
type
me your
in the stream
question so
chat.
that I can pull you in that way.
Here, let me just. Let me see if I can drag him. Noir, there we go. I can drag folks. I'll just drag people in. You might have to call him though.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know Promise, he's a caster. This.
I'm not sure how to call him.
There
There we go.
you go. Hopefully that's a good question. I know Axel Toss wanted to jump on too.
I also know that Key Hunt or Kurt wants to say a few words too.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey,
Hey,
Promise.
Noir.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
How's it going?
good.
So, pretty much the reason why I tried to call in is I was personally at the GESL as a spectator and sort of a person that helped admin during the players' matches. And something I want to say that was really, really cool about the GESL is during players' matches, vetoes were pretty much on time. Players, any kind of food, anything needed, was very well taken care of in terms of the admins. I even got a few times, I was even able to spectate some of the matches. So overall, it was just a really, really, really cool experience. I know I saw Bobby around during the event, and I also said hi to John. He was a pretty busy guy there. But overall, the call, or the reason why I'm calling is it was just a really, really cool event. I mean, I tried to even get into some of the casting. I just was not really dressed properly for that, but I just wanted to give a really, really quick shout out to the GESL, all the guys that that helped out. I even won a prize, which was kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, that's pretty much the call for it.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All right, thanks, Mar. Appreciate the call. All right, let's see. Let's get Kurt in here, Keon.
Okay, because he's going to go off, and it's not going to be about the GSL, but that's fine. I want to hear it. We missed it because we were running an event this weekend.
Kurt.
What's up, guys?
Kurt's gonna fill us in with what happened in the weekend, like the weekend that was. What happened, Kurt?
Yeah, I'm gonna be on like the MLG hit list for bringing this up. But I mean, it's been on Reddit the past day or so. It's on Team Liquid now. So yeah, MLG announced their qualifiers for the arena process for both the invite-only qualifier, which was top 80 from MLG, and then also the qualifiers for the open qualifiers to qualify into the invite-only qualifier. Why the fuck they have to make that so confusing? I don't know. But anyway,
MLG.
Yeah. But at least it's an open qualifier, so I'm not complaining. However, when they announced that yesterday, they sort of lightly, in a very, very small text at the bottom, announced that if you qualified for the WCS NA finals, which means that if you played in the USA event in Anaheim and you got top 16, I believe, you are not allowed to play in the MLG Open bracket at all. You can only participate in the WCS portion of the Raleigh event, the Summer Championship. Which no one knew that was happening.
Yeah, why would that only now be that detail, which is obviously a very, very important detail? Why would that detail only now just be brought up? Several players would have said, "Okay, I'm not going to do the WCS if this is the case."
Yeah, I mean, and to speak for MLG a little bit about it, I mean, hopefully they're going to change their minds. They announced today, after a little bit of stink on Reddit and some stink on Team Liquid and some, a little bit back and forth with Idra, who kind of flipped out on his Twitter and stuff like that. They are announcing today, quote unquote, an update on the situation from MLG Adam. So then they announced that'll be done today, but we don't know exactly what that is yet. Hopefully that is a solution to the problem rather than like them trying to cover it up.
Yeah, but regardless, I mean, I hate the idea that every time a mistake is made, they come out and they try to make themselves like, oh, we fixed it, here we are, we're the saviors. Well, it was your fucking problem to begin with. I mean, seriously, excuse my French, this stuff pisses me off. Like, who made that decision, seriously? Who said, oh, this is a good idea? We're going to deny everyone that played in a WCS that was at the MLG event, we're going to deny them the opportunity to play in our next MLG event. I mean, who thought that up?
I mean, is it on the same day again, or
it's on the same day as far as everyone knows.
But I mean, that's the reason. I mean, okay, like everybody was complaining. Like, I loved it as a spectator, but everybody was complaining that it was on the same day, and that, including Idra. I mean, Idra was one of the ones complaining too about just like having the two tournaments coincide with each other. It was just too many games, like for the play.
If people complain, you allow them to have the choice to drop out of one or the other. It's pretty simple.
And if you do it early enough, you can adjust the format so that it fits. I mean, if 20 people drop out of the WCS, you just adjust the format.
And even if you absolutely cannot adjust the format, as far as like adjusting your schedule to make both of them work to where they're not, so stretched for time, which I personally, after running, events, and John, Bobby, you guys might agree, I personally think that it can be adjusted. I mean, look, you've got 3 days to work this shit out to put in a fairly small tournament, which is the WCS.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see it being, me personally, I wouldn't see it being that big of a deal. But once again, I'm not MLG, I'm not in their shoes. I understand why they kind of don't want to allow the people to have the choice, because the last thing they want is 30 people dropping out of WCS in order to play in the open bracket, because that would piss Blizzard off. That being said, they have to understand where I'm coming from.
It's an easy fix. You just do it in blocks.
Yeah.
You just do it in blocks. You do WCS event, matches from 9 in the morning to 1 p.m. and then later in the afternoon you start the open bracket. And it's an easy fix.
So Sundance just tweeted, it's critically important to both Blizzard and MLG that players are able to compete as they choose. Schedules will now be staggered. So
just like that. Jesus has arrived. He gets it
See,
again.
do you see what I'm saying? I'm not going to, God, never mind. I'm not going to go into that. Seriously.
Gets it again. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not going to go into that.
Well, it's just, I mean, yeah. I mean, they should be working together, for Christ's sakes. I mean, like, WCS is totally piggybacking on MLG, so it's like, why aren't they,
I just wonder,
same?
I really do. I want to hear the inside story on this. I so want to hear the inside story. Because if it was a decision, it seems like it was a decision that was made by MLG and not necessarily by WCS. And if so, I have a feeling that Blizzard flipped out because a lot of people are going to drop out of their tournament. I mean, we were seriously considering paying our players their own way to Raleigh in order for them to just play in the open bracket and just drop out of WCS. Because it's important. In the end, it's all about exposure, and you get more exposure by beating the more known players in the open bracket. It's just, Mystic placed 5th in the WCS tournament and USA finals, and no one really knew or remembered. But Suppy, beat a bunch of players in the open bracket, and it was a lot different. So it's just how it works.
I wish Mystic would have done better at our event. I would have liked to have seen him get a little bit more exposure.
Hit me where it hurts.
Well, I mean, I feel for him. I love that guy. He just didn't have a good tournament. I mean, people do that.
He understands why, and I think it's honestly good for him that he didn't do as well. Because I think that means he's officially putting down Diablo.
Yep. Sometimes it takes losing for you to figure out how to win. Period.
Yep. Exactly.
So.
Well, go ahead. Well, Kurt, one last thing before you leave. I'd actually make a counter argument to the fact that sending him to the open bracket is better than WCS because, yeah, he got 5th in that thing, but you know what? I saw that he got 5th. There are a lot of people that actually noticed he got 5th.
I actually paid more attention to WCS than MLG because it was more exciting.
I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that he did well there. I noticed that.
In the end, you have to understand though, that you guys are not the target audience, if you understand what I mean by that. Of course, I paid more attention to WCS. We paid more attention to WCS because that interests us, and we love that underground scene. The general StarCraft population doesn't necessarily feel that way.
Right. I hope it's shifting, though. I think it's
and trust me, we monitored it enough to try to be able to see that, but it just didn't work like that. I mean, look at Daisuke, for instance. I mean, people still don't know who he is, and he had an amazing run, and he's an amazing player. It's just it's unfortunately how it works. You have to beat those really known players in order for the tournament to even matter. So, yeah, well, and like you said, John, I hope hopefully it's changing.
Yeah, I hope it does too.
All right, guys. If I don't go, I'll talk forever. So
yeah, you better go.
I'm glad Sundance cleared it up. He gets it again.
Jesus. All right. How about we got time for a few more. Let's see if Alex wants to hop in here. Let me see if he's even around. See if Axel's on here.
I do have a.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I'm asking him if he wants to be on the call.
Okay.
He was actually one of the volunteers at TESPA at the Lone Star event. I'm asking him if he wants to be on the call, but
looks like he
can wait, or he can add you, or whatever.
Looks like Alex is not in here, so
okay.
Why don't you add him to?
He asked the question, and I just need to see if he wants to get on the call, but. I had a question real quick. Well, yeah, it's okay. He doesn't want to get on the call, so I'll just ask the question.
Sure.
He says he's particularly curious about the volunteer situation at TESPA, and Bobby, make sure that you mention how many volunteers and stuff that we had. But at TESPA, we had very few volunteers that were actively involved in managing the event. Most were doing busy work like running a stand. Running a stand. I wonder what the volunteer situation was like for GESL, GESL, and if it was a student-only based volunteership.
So, with the volunteers from Cal Poly Pomona, most of them were not part of like the organizing or pre-planning or anything like that. Trevor was mainly the only one part of that. The rest of them were doing more so, doing check-in. They were also helping out with the BYOC, crimping cables, like different little things like that.
Putting together the computers.
Yeah, putting together.
Moving them, all that stuff.
Right. Moving things and whatnot. So, I believe, Trevor, we had how many from Cal Poly? Like 25 or so?
From Cal Poly, yeah, probably 25. I brought a few more people in, which brought it up to like 29, 30 college students.
Right. And the rest were people from SoCal Esports and CSN staff.
Yeah.
And also that.
I was going to say, I think one of the reasons that question's being asked probably is because there was this perception, I think, later on after Friday and maybe Saturday, people just didn't think about it, and then it came up again Sunday, was that were these volunteers the same people that you had, like, basically in charge of players and deciding on rules and things like that, and basically handling things that should have been handled by people with more experience? And from what I know, and Trevor, you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, or Bobby, but like Bobby said, the people that were in a position to make decisions were all people that were part of the conversation about this event for more than a month or 2 months, easily, and were individuals that have had experience in this sort of a thing. So there was nobody thrown into like, oh, you're volunteering. Could you go manage the Koreans over there? It wasn't like that. Could you go grab the Koreans and figure out what they want? No, that wasn't happening.
That should not be happening.
No.
Anyways.
Right, that wasn't the case at all. I mean, we had, Juno was translating for us, and she goes to Cal Poly Pomona, part of the Cal Poly Pomona crew. I mean, the only other people, I guess, were like people helping in production that were, volunteers from Cal Poly Pomona, or from SoCal Esports, or wherever. So, I mean, as far as making decisions goes, that was mainly, the people, again, like how John has said, people that were in the group for, over 2 months, which ultimately led to me making a final decision.
I will say that the games room was managed mostly by students on their own, and I thought they did a very excellent job.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
The games room was managed by strictly volunteers, but that decision was made was because it was more of a fun type of thing. Well, it wasn't. If you make a mistake, everything is
right. Well, and originally, Evan from CSM was going to basically oversee that. But after talking to the two guys that were heavily involved, one of them was heavily involved in the fighting game community, and they had dealt with consoles and stuff. Evan basically said, these guys got it. I mean, these guys can handle this just fine. And they most certainly did. So sometimes you just have to look, you just have to have a conversation with someone and get an idea of who they are and kind of what they can do. And these guys had done this stuff before, so it wasn't like they were inexperienced, but they were volunteers. Well, technically, all of us were volunteers.
Right. All right, guys. Well, gonna wrap up the show. I think that's gonna be it for Q&A. And why don't we do some shout-outs? Let's start with you, Bobby. Any shout-outs you want to do?
Yeah, shout out to basically Gigabyte, all our sponsors, CSN crew, John Clark and all of them, and Andrew did an awesome job. Trevor, all of Cal Poly Pomona did awesome. My parents, because they were awesome and they actually helped out a lot.
I still didn't meet them. What the heck? Were they really there?
They were there. They were running. I mean, like they weren't there like all day or anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, and just everyone that pretty much supported us and stuck with us and helped us make it through this long journey. And of course, SoCal Esports crew, amazing job with Caleb and Chris and everyone there, and Jason Barbosa who did production and whatnot. I mean, without any of these people, we wouldn't have had this event, right?
Right.
So, and all our casters, and Garrett did an awesome job as well. So, thanks to all those people.
All right, Trevor, you're up.
I guess first of all, I got to thank Gigabyte, Irene, and Richard for making the whole event possible. Kingston, Quartermaster, all of the sponsors in general, they were fantastic. They did a great job promoting the event. Bobby, big thanks to you for making it all happen. John, excellent work with the bracket. We couldn't have done it without you and the CSN crew. Wrong Shot, who's not here. Most importantly, all the volunteers, Cal Poly, CSN, everyone else just did a fantastic job. It's only because of them that this was able to happen. And thanks to you, Chris, for having us on. It's a great experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Welcome, John.
Again, just the same thing these guys have said about the sponsors. I mean, I was lucky enough to have, Bobby trusted me enough to talk to Richard and Irene, which was great because, and they're from Gigabyte. Those two were really, really nice people. And at the end of it, they were very happy with how it turned out. And they were troopers because it was for both of them, it was their first any sort of event like this, whether it be esports or a trade show of this size. And they were troopers. I know they were both just as tired as we were at the end of the day. They were dealing with some of their own things, I'm sure. But definitely a shout out to them. A shout out to all of the sponsors. For me, especially a shout out to AverMedia. They came through with some cards for us, and they were they were a little nervous at first, for something like this. But I was able to talk them into it, and at the end of it, they said, it turned out really well for them. So that's great. And I wanted to say again, the volunteers, the young people that came in and said, I will give my time today to help with whatever it may be. And you're always going to get, in every situation, you're always going to get some volunteers that basically get lazy on you, and they're just there to maybe get the free prizes or just to say they were part of the event. But in this case, there were so many volunteers. It personally, it was hard to see that there was anyone doing that. I mean, I think we would have noticed it for sure. And I don't remember having to ever have a conversation with anyone, about that. But the volunteers that were at the desk, the young lady, and then there was a group of people that were at the desk checking people in and the spectator badge and stuff. One of the ladies, she must have came by our booth, and I'm sure she did it with every booth, asking us if we needed water. Are you guys thirsty? Do you need me to go get you anything? Is there anything I can help you with? And I guess I was just completely impressed with the hard work and the passion that students are willing to put in to see something happen like this. I mean, and it